Everybody's going to get in trouble. It's a question of how do you get out of trouble.
Yeah.
There was a point where a lot of people felt I wasn't going to make it except me. What I did is I restructured things in the early 90s and the bad times, and I had to go back and do it myself. You know, when it was happening, I had no choice. I just had to do it, and I did it myself. I really went back to work, and I really did things myself, and I think that's why I survived. And don't forget, I was being sued for $2 billion at one point. I really think that right now I'm just really proud with the way I've handled things. I really think that I've handled things well from a business standpoint. More importantly than anything else is by using my own brain. The way I've survived, the quality in which I've lived under the survival mode, the image I've portrayed during the survival period. I mean, people haven't seen me go into a corner and put my thumb in my mouth and say, I give up, I give up. I mean, this kid doesn't give up. But some people did give up. Many people gave up, and many tough, smart killers gave up. They just gave up. They said, I can't do it anymore. But I have to tell you, a lot of smart people are in real deep trouble right now, and I'm not. And a lot of people, really smart people, are dead. They're gone. They're buried. They're over. I've always been able to lead, and I've led with spirit. I've just always been able to create spirit. I mean, I built a great wealth by the spirit that I created. And, you know, I'm pretty good at seeing what people want. You just have to lead by example. Well, I think my health is very good, and as far as that, I've never had a cigarette, I've never had a glass of alcohol. How do you define leadership? Leadership is a very strange word because, you know, some people have it, some people don't, and nobody knows why. I mean, Winston Churchill was an unbelievable leader. Why? He was born with a speech impediment. He had all sorts of problems. He certainly wasn't a handsome man, and yet he was a great leader. Why was he a great leader? Nobody knows. He was a great leader. It's really management. It's competence, it's capability, it's just basic ability. And you know, most people love me, and a few really have great distaste for me. Well, I had a good childhood, wonderful parents, really good parents, and it was a good, solid childhood, I'd say. Very normal in a lot of respects, but a very, very solid childhood. My father was in the real estate business, and I've been in that and other businesses and different things. I like what I'm doing. I just enjoy what I'm doing. I love the real estate business, and I love the other businesses that I'm in. I don't think of myself as driven. I'm fortunate. I don't need lots of sleep like some people, and some people don't. I don't need that. I would say that I'm somebody that enjoys what I do, and I enjoy it so much that perhaps I do it well, but I really enjoy what I do. I don't like to think of myself as driven. I don't like to think of myself really as ambitious. I just enjoy what I do. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I have a special interest in New York. New York City is a hot city. It's a great city. It's the greatest city in the world, according to many. And I guess a lot of things had to do with it. Mostly, I feel it was the psychology of making New York a winner as opposed to a loser. I mean, we took a building that had one person working, we now employ 2,000 people, and we employed during peak construction periods over 4,000 people. So the city is the big winner. And I learned a lot from my father, more than anything else. I learned a lot. My father was out in sort of a tough business in Brooklyn, Queens, rent control property and various properties, and it wasn't a great business, it was a good business, and he was a solid guy and a bright guy. And I learned a lot from my father. I think if, in terms of support, that would be the number one thing that I got from my father. I don't look at failures as failures. I think a failure is something that you really want to learn by. I would say that I haven't had too many, and I want to keep it that way. You know, the way I feel about tips, if somebody does a super job, I give more than anyone. And if somebody does a lousy job, I probably give less than anybody. And that's the way I feel about life. I'm a pretty good tipper when somebody's good, and I'm a pretty lousy tipper if somebody's not good. So that's the way it is. Life should be, you should be rewarded for competence and capability and doing a job and having a smile on your face, maybe, if that's the case.
But we could talk a little bit about success. You have to know about momentum. It's just something that I talk about because it's so different. There was a man named William Levitt. He was really the first of the massive builders of homes. And he was a young man, and he built Levittowns. Has anyone ever heard of Levittowns? The Levittowns were these massive housing developments, largely in Long Island, Pennsylvania, different places, but massive. And he was a young man. He did unbelievably, became very, very rich, and everything he touched turned to gold, and it was incredible. And you have to understand, William Levitt used to go around looking for nails, looking for sawdust. He'd sell the sawdust. He'd save the nails and use them again. He'd save chips of wood and use them for different things. Everything was perfect. He knew how to get zoning. He'd have lunch with the mayor. I had great respect for him. He was a great real estate person. He was the ultimate professional real estate developer, and he built Levittowns. Remember, he was the first really large-scale housing sprawl all over the country. Actually, they went all over the world. Then what happened is he was offered a lot of money by Gulf and Western. It was a big conglomerate to buy his company. And they offered him a lot of money, more money than he ever thought possible. And he took it. He then retired at a very young age, very, very young. He moved to the south of France. He bought a magnificent yacht, and he was riding high. Everything was good, but he was going crazy. He was so bored. He was going absolutely crazy. And Gulf and Western comes back, and they're dying. This is a big company, but they're dying because they don't send people to pick up nails. They don't send people to sell the sawdust. They don't send people to take the little scraps of lumber and bring them down and sell them and get very small amounts of money, but it all adds up. They couldn't get zoning because they don't take the mayor out to dinner, and they don't do the things that you have to do, and they're losing their shirt with this company they bought. And they couldn't sell the company because it was a mess, and they destroyed the company. And they went to William Levin, and after 12 years, they came to him, they said, we'd love to send you the company back, would you have any interest? Yes, I would, I'd love to buy it. And he worked like crazy. He worked 24 hours a day, work. And he went bankrupt, out of business, totally bankrupt. And by this time, he was an old guy, and I was at a party, and I was the new hot guy in New York. I was doing great with real estate, and I was on the covers of Business Week magazine and Fortune magazine. I was doing really well. And I walk into the apartment, I was invited, and I saw one person, pretty old guy, and he was sitting in the corner, and his name was William Levitt. And I said, Mr. Levitt, how are you doing? Donald Trump. He said, yes, I know. He said, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well at all. I said, I read that, and it's too bad. What went wrong? And I'll never forget the expression of the statement. He said, Donald, I totally lost my momentum. And I watched him sitting in this corner. I don't even know why he was there. Because he said, I lost my momentum, Donald. I lost my momentum. I've never, ever forgotten those words. And I've always remembered that. He lost his momentum. He took that time off. He came back, and it was a different world, and he lost his momentum. Now, the real lesson there is you have to know if you've lost your momentum so that you don't get hurt. What you want to do is you want to keep going. But if you think you lost your momentum, slow down and refocus on maybe something else.